Good morning, America. Thank you for watching Taxes Made Easy. We have another crazy weekend. Wow. It was the second assassination attempt on President Trump. And so we're gonna again that's huge in the news, and it's all over the news. So don't plan to spend too much time on it. But it's something that we can really take away. We need more civility in the public discourse, but also it's going to really help you in dealing with and resolving your tax issues. So that's really what I want to focus on today, and really focus on the right approach when dealing with the IRS to help you and your family in the long run, because really that's what we want. We want to make sure that you are taken care of. So we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back, everybody. And oh boy, what a crazy, crazy weekend. So we're just going to dive into the first story. Just came in yesterday that another assassination attempt happened, and it's already been investigated. People are turned into it. But again, this is if you're not aware of what happened, Trump was out on one of his golf courses, and here's the accused gunman. And so, I mean, there's a lot of different articles here, and this kind of goes through some of them. His son has said, oh, he's not a violent person, but yeah, he hates Trump. The idea that we hate fellow Americans is a tragedy. And if someone's encouraging you or fomenting hate by saying how horrible the other person is, rather than focusing on actual topics and using personal attacks instead of actually looking at the issues of the day, and both sides can be very guilty of it. Has to stop. So again, this apparently he has a long criminal history. And was definitely an anti-Trumper, and so he camped out on the perimeter of the golf course waiting for Trump to come by, and the Secret Service was, won a whole head making sure everything was clear. Saw a sniper rifle or a rifle pointing through the bushes, and they took some shots in that direction. Apparently he dropped his stuff and ran, but they caught up with him as he was fleeing to the next county. So, again, this is 2 assassination attempts in 60 days.
This is the ultimate order.
And again, this is nuts. We've never had this before. Again, pretty much everybody is saying there's no place in this country for political violence of any kind. Political violence has no place in a democratic society. However, we say that, and this is, again, it's given a lot of lip service. So jumping to this next article, again, this is Harris and Biden's reactions after the attempt. And they're all saying what they should be saying. And Kamala Harris said, I have been briefed on the reports, and I'm glad he's safe. Violence has no place in America. And this is what's on their the official account. Joe Biden responded pretty much saying the same thing. I'm relieved that former president is unharmed. There's an active investigation. However, earlier the very same day, Kamala Harris said this. Someone who vilifies immigrants, who promotes, who hates, should never again have the chance to stand behind a microphone or still as the President of the United States of America. This is typical language. It was all over the place at the DNC. Someone should never have the chance. They don't belong. There's no way they should be in power. And using ad nauseum, they accuse Republicans of hate. And now vilifying and tearing down Democrats is, the other party is not just something the Democrats do. Republicans can be very guilty of it as well. Trump usually doesn't accuse other people of hate, but he definitely uses, attacks people's character instead of focusing on the issues as well. But this whole pushing of hate and, again, they even call it Trump derangement syndrome has to stop. We have to be adults and really look at the issues and not a personality test. We hate so and so and just say I don't agree with these issues. And this is really a huge problem in the United States. It's a huge reason for the divisiveness that instead of focusing on issues, we're focused on personalities. And then you have people that think it's okay to assassinate other Americans for political gain. That is third world politics. That is, that's a much bigger threat to democracy than someone getting in the office for 4 years. And so calling someone a threat to democracy, it's again this inflammatory language that has become way too pervasive. And it's this idea that when you're dealing with someone that you don't agree with, that you have to hate them, dislike them. Again, it really hurts people when dealing with the government altogether. So I've seen it far too many times and really want to kind of focus on that, how it can hurt you and how when you have the right mindset, it can help you so much to deal with the IRS in a professional way. So moving forward, we have some housekeeping stuff. So first of all, the IRS announced relief to victims in Louisiana. So again, another disaster relief. So they have a lot of counties, so they didn't list them. So pretty much any business anywhere in Louisiana qualify for the same tax relief. Postponement of filing dates and payment dates for quarterly taxes. Quarterly taxes, if you didn't know, are due today, as well as business returns. So let's get those out. You need to postmark them today. Do not go online today and try to make a payment. It will not be posted by the deadline, which is today. So you can walk into a local IRS office, make a payment, or make sure the payment is postmarked, and make sure you keep proof of the mailing. And if it's a sizable payment, I suggest you do it certified. Another quick article from irs.gov, and they're setting up and showing deference to Indian tribal governments. If you have tribal members, they're trying to honor the different treaties, and they came up with proposed regulations to make sure they are not auditing or including, so auditing tribal members or including their general welfare benefits as income. So again, they're training on how to suspend audits when it's tribal members, etc. So if you are a member of a tribe, this is very handy, something to be aware of. And so if they are coming after you, I would definitely, sorry, I didn't share that article. I would definitely check with whether or not you qualify for this exemption. And you'll get new policies that are being announced today. Okay. This is an ongoing story. New York City has had a series of federal raids. So the DOJ is investigating New York City Mayor Eric Adams. And this is pretty extreme. So his police commissioner resigned last week. The other person being investigated was the New York Mayor's chief counsel, and she just resigned as well. So they're both under federal investigation, and Eric Adams is next. So pretty nuts here. So again, there've been a series of federal raids. They grabbed all kinds of information, phone records, computers, etc. Um, so far, they're not targeting the mayor, apparently. Um, but again, these are two high-level resignations. So, like I said earlier, Caban was a police commissioner and resigned on Thursday. So, if you're in New York City, this is huge. Again, to have such big hits to the staff of the mayors of, mayor of pretty much the largest city in the country. Moving forward, Boeing is still having headaches. Oh my gosh, this is a traditional American company. They've produced planes, jets across the world, and successfully for 67 years. I'm not sure how long they've been in business, but it's, again, an amazing American company. And now they have a big strike going on. It only affects about 20% of their workers, but you have 33,000 union members at Boeing walking off the job on Friday. They rejected a 4-year contract, and again, they negotiated the contract. It was taken to the members. 95% voted against the deal. 96% voted to authorize a strike. So the union membership is definitely not happy. And again, they're going to go back to negotiating, and again, this is a lot more trouble for Boeing as they're trying to turn the corner and start improving. But last one in 2008 lasted 50 days, and if that happens, it looks like it's going to cost Boeing $3 billion. So again, they're going to go back, but you have a brand new CEO, Kelly Olberg, trying to turn Boeing around, and this is another huge monkey wrench in their operations. So wishing the best for Boeing. Again, it's always sad to see a large company struggle. So it's interesting. It's been in the news a lot about immigration and how some local towns are getting overwhelmed. So there's a lot of stories about Aurora, Colorado, and then Ohio. You have the Springfield, where you have 20,000 new migrants in a town of 60,000, creating a lot of issues there. So because you have so many issues, the suburbs, which tend to be more conservative than the cities, are suing the city of Denver and suing the governor, the Colorado governor. How well this will work, I don't know if this will really work at all. But again, it just shows the frustrations of suburb areas where they're facing crime, they're facing all kinds of increased costs to these suburbs that are hurting the population. So it's creating a lot of issues, and they feel powerless because these are decisions being made at the governor level, and also what Denver is doing is affecting all their neighbors as well. So again, they're trying to reverse policies that made Denver a haven for tens of thousands of illegal immigrants. And again, you have a rise in crime due to Tren de Aragua, and so again, Venezuela has been taking a lot of their prisoners and shipping them up to the U.S. Why? Because they get rid of these horrible gang members, and it doesn't cost them anything. Actually, just costs enough for a plane ticket. But I think we've been flying them up anyway. They've been taking over apartment complexes, dealing drugs, and robbing jewelry stores. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. My initial reaction is I don't think the suburbs stand a chance. So again, car theft is up, and you have 3 Venezuelan nationals and 1 Colombian national as part of this ring of car thieves. And we're over time, so we're gonna jump into a break right now. Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to move forward to our next article here, and this is we're going to slow down a little bit as we kind of dive into the meat here. So this is an interesting article from PJ Media. Again, new CBO report comes out showing that student loan debt repayment is a sham. Why aren't student loans being repaid? Because the government allowed people not to pay them. So, of course, many people have been using deferments, income-based repayment plans, etc., to not pay their student loans for years and years. So, again, we're being told students can't pay these loans back because they're being crushed on a mountain of bad loans. Well, who allowed the loans to happen in the first place? The government. Who sponsored them? And again, I have student loans, so again, it's just part of the problem. I couldn't have afforded law school without it, but I mean, maybe I should have done something else. Maybe I could have worked harder to get loans, or I could have just gone a different direction. I graduated from college pretty much debt-free with the bachelor's, but then I went to law school, and that's why I accumulated most of my debt. So the question is, really, what are the root causes here? So the problem is that they're overburdened in college loan debt. They can't buy a house, start a family, or even move out of their parents' home. This is what's been sold. This is the story that's being told, that it's a huge problem, that we have a whole generation that can't move forward. And then the article claims it's a load of crap. Why, though? So they're showing that between July of 2009 and June of 13, they examined sample federal student loans to measure the extent that they were making progress. During the first 6 years, more than half who were supposed to be making payments were only paying 45%. So and the borrowers weren't making any payments for most of the time because they were in default, forbearance, or deferment. So the ones that were paying were only paying 45% of the time. And then borrowers made payments greater than $10 in only 38% of the months. So again, the fact that they're not paid is well established. The question is, why? A lot of it's due to the income-based repayment plans. It's great for students, very bad for actually getting these loans paid back. So in 2010, they passed that, and so it capped payments at 10% of discretionary income. So income exceeding 150% of the poverty line. And it also canceled debt after 10 to 20 years. So if you can just stay on that IBR for 10 to 20 years, your debt will just get forgiven. So why would you work harder to pay off a larger debt when you can, just stay on that and have your debt forgiven? However, after 6 years in repayment, the typical borrower owes 8% more, and it's even worse now with interest rates today. A quarter of borrowers owe 30% or more on the debt, so again, just ballooning on them. And more than 75% in income-driven repayment plans had rising balances. So many of them were only making payments of $10 a month in about a third of the month. So a third of the time, people were only paying $10 a month. There's no progress. there's no out there. There's no solution there. So again, the accusation is that it's a result of greedy for-profit colleges. Have colleges across the country risen their tuition and rates by astronomical levels? Absolutely. But these are nonprofits. These are public universities that have done the same thing as private universities. Some of the private universities have gone through the roof, but why are they able to do this? Why are they able to gouge more and more money from students? Most of them not being, a lot of them not being worth it. You know, especially if they're charging a lot of them are charging 50 to 60,000 a year now for college. I don't think they're worth it. But the only reason the money is worth it is because the supply of money is there through all of these cheap loans that people think they're not going to have to pay back. So the more we take a step back from that, and again, there's a disconnect between taking out these loans and having to pay them back. Again, we're encouraging less responsibility. So again, it says some borrowers are conscientious and have been trying to pay back what they owe. Again, but all these programs to give breaks, to wipe out loans, present a moral hazard. Because when people refuse or can't pay them back, while many others either paid back their loans or never went to college in the first place, they decided to go somewhere else, a different route. So why are they paying for people that had the privilege to go to college? And it's one of those things we don't talk about, the perverse incentives that are created when we forgive student loans. So again, this is a moral hazard. And if people think that it will eventually be wiped out, we're just starting the problem all over again. We're going to create the same issues with the next generation of students that are going to college now, thinking, oh, well, eventually my student loans will be forgiven. You know, eventually I'll get passed and then I won't have to pay them. So it's a definition of doing the same thing over and over again, just repeating the loop, seeing what's happening where, again, with all these programs, people just aren't paying the loans back. And then it just gets more and more expensive every time because tuition continues to go up. People can't pay that. The taxpayers are left on the hook. Or it hits the point where we run out of money as it hurts our economy. It hurts more. The more we just print money, drives inflation up. There's all kinds of consequences here to these free money ideas. And again, this is why, more than anything else, I really want someone to stand up and try to do what's right for our country in the long run. So I've shared articles talking about how, you know, the pros and cons of different Trump economic proposals. And here, Alexander Salter from American Institute for Economic Research. Again, this is a right-leaning source, but again, it goes through the economic policies of Harris and tries to give us an idea of where they're heading. Some of them are very bad. So Exhibit A, price controls for groceries. Since it was announced, it really has been criticized by both the right and the left. And so it hasn't been mentioned as much, but the fact that they're talking about it, the people running her campaign have talked about it, it's still an official policy that they would push. You know, do I think it'll get through the House and the Senate? Well, it depends. If the Democrats have full control of the House and the Senate, who knows? And they claim they only want to clamp down on price gouging, but essentially it is mandatory price caps. That's what it is. And when you talk about price caps, it sounds good that we will fix the price down, but again, it's such a bad policy that other prominent Democrats have been promising almost immediately that it'll never happen. It'll never get through Congress. We'll never approve this. Yeah, well, you're not going to be the one running the country. And so again, this idea that to turn to price caps, and if they're willing to do it for groceries, who knows what else they're going to try to push as far when it comes to price caps, which are heavy-handed socialist policies that have hurt and destroyed other economies, and we've seen it happen. So I don't know why would we push for that here. So growth-killing tax plan. So again, going after the rich. The rich currently pay 40% of all federal income taxes. The top 1% pays 40% of all government taxes. but or federal income taxes. Well, let's raise the rates anyway. When you attack the rich, do you think you're going to get more growth? You're going to get less. You're going to get less investments to produce, to innovate, and again, capital will just go elsewhere. Raising the corporate rates, again, going from 21 to 28%, which is better than Joe Biden's proposal to raise it to 39.6%, which is the same rate as a top rate on the wealthiest Americans. But again, why would you pay these? I mean, anytime you tax, it's a 7% jump in taxes. You're going to get smaller returns for owners, which is just going to be passed down, increase prices for consumers, lower wages for workers. We've been there, done that. The idea of going after a section of the American economy without hurting others in the economy is a huge falsity. The idea that we can, and this is the idea that we can go and take from the rich, give to the poor without hurting everybody that works for, with, and benefits by the productivity of their investments is short-sighted. And then one of the worst ideas here is to tax unrealized capital gains. Mark Cuban, who is a huge Kamala Harris supporter, came out and said, "Oh, there's no way they're going to do this. There's no way. They've told me they're not going to do the unrealized capital gains," but it's still one of the official policies. It's still out there. And again, if you look at history, when they first did the same thing was sold when they first did the income tax. It'll only go after the rich. It'll only be a very small amount. Only high income earners paid any tax at all when they first came out with the income tax. Now it's everywhere, taking 30-40% of most people's paychecks. When you look at that, plus all the Social Security, Medicare, yeah, it's a huge burden on most people. So then you have the home affordability plan, which really could be the opposite. When you put $25,000 in down payment assistance, it's not going to drive prices down. It's not going to make the homes more affordable. If you give it this, if you give $25,000 to one family, it will help that one family. If you give $25,000 to thousands of families, all competing for similar homes, all it does is boost market demand, which will drive prices further up. And who's going to get that money? Who's going to actually get those savings? Not the families they're giving the credit to. It puts them at an advantage against other buyers. But again, when you have a good portion of the market will have this access to $25,000, housing supply is less responsive to prices than housing demand. Because for new homes, you have high costs, you have to build it, you have to have the zoning laws, local restrictions, you have to the investors. It takes time to build new homes. So any kind of increase in supply takes time, whereas the demand, you throw more money out there, the demand's going to go higher, but it's not going to create new houses in the short term. So who's going to get that extra $25,000? Why? The sellers and the home builders. So this really is a giveaway to the sellers and the homeowners because the taxes will go, the prices won't go up. Again, last thing he's claiming is the idea, and this is something that has been on the fringes, hasn't been explained, is to get rid of private health insurance plans. So what's that old promise? If you like your doctor, you can keep them. That Obama made when ACA was first passed. It's going to become a huge, huge problem. My wife really struggles with her Medicare care to keep the same women's health doctor. It's very, very hard to find a good women's health doctor. So again, another huge monkey wrench. Getting rid of private insurance plans is essentially going to destroy that industry and force everybody onto the exchanges where again, the rates, if you are making any kind of income, are very difficult to afford. So again, this is article kind of goes through this. It doesn't pull any punches. But going with this last article for today, I want to do this real quickly. As Harris is rising in the polls, and this is a CNBC article, a lot of people are making massive wealth transfers to kids under the old rules, afraid that if Harris gets elected, it'll be a lot harder to transfer that wealth and pass that money to the kids. So again, a lot of people in the millions. But even then, if you haven't done estate planning, if you haven't done trust planning, you should do it. Absolutely should do it. Make those plans. One of the big reasons changes people are making that if you have 401ks, it makes more sense to pay the taxes now while the tax rates are lower, convert it to a Roth. That's another big thing that a lot of people are doing, because it doesn't matter who's elected president. In the long run, with our huge fiscal cliff, it's more likely than not that people are going to taxes will have to be raised. So make these decisions now, make these plans. If you don't have a Roth IRA, you really should consider it. And kind of coming up on our last break, but I do want to really get into our topic of the day. And this is civility, and which comes from civics. If you are of the mindset, and we help people day in and day out avoid paying taxes that they don't have to pay. But it is our civic duty, per the amended Constitution with the income tax, to pay taxes to support our government. And part of that is, one, reporting your taxes. The second part of that is paying your taxes. So if you're trying to, play a game where you shirk paying and filing your taxes as required by law, you're not a good client for me. I'd rather you go somewhere else and waste someone else's time. We have someone right now claiming to be a sovereign citizen. It's not the first time I've heard this. And that they can't come after you. Well, you know what the IRS does? They don't care. The courts have consistently rolled against that. And they're in a world of hurt. We don't help people evade taxes. We help people get compliant and straight with their current tax obligations. And that stops the collection moving forward. So again, just to give you a better idea, is we help people learn. When they come to this, it's usually a mess. When they come into and hire us as clients, their case is usually a mess, and we give them a straight path moving forward. This is how we're going to help you. This is how we're going to guide you. So, one, you're getting all those filings done, if needed. Two, we figure out a way that you're not going to owe moving forward. So when you come to this, IRS and often the states will help give you a deal, an installment agreement or a hardship, whatever, or an offer on your past due taxes. But you can't continue the same mistakes. And if you're not serious about getting straight with your tax obligations, there's no reason to come pay someone like me thousands of dollars if you're just going to repeat the same problems. So again, one of the services we provide to the government is we help people understand what their tax obligations are and comply with them. So this is part of the civics of meeting our obligations as citizens of this great country. If you don't like the laws, if you think taxes are too high, vote. But just evading them or avoiding tax situations usually causes more problem. We're going to get in the details, but we're hitting a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, and we're going to kind of wrap things up, really focusing on how to successfully negotiate with the IRS and what really helps you wrap this up. So again, And a lot of it comes down to attitude. So when I have someone that wants to fight and kick and scream with the IRS, it doesn't help. And the hard part is that the IRS is not easy to deal with, which is, if they were easy to deal with, I'd probably be out of a job. But they're horrible to deal with, and it hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse, especially over the last 3-4 years under the Biden administration. They pumped plenty of money into it, but they've made it harder than ever for taxpayers to deal with and work with the IRS. So it is. I get it's so easy to get frustrated and mad and to lose someone's cool. It doesn't ever pay not to be professional. Which means it doesn't mean you can't express frustration and say, hey, I'm trying to get this done. I've been running around in circles. Sometimes when you just break it down and explain the situation and how hard you've been fighting, that's when someone might actually work with you. But even then, if you can't get it done right, don't resort to extremes, because it just makes your situation worse. True story. When I was first working, I first started off as a tax attorney. Someone was so frustrated with the IRS that they flew a plane into an IRS building in Austin, Texas. Killed themselves. Sound like September 11th? And I don't remember if they killed anybody there at the IRS, but they injured quite a few people. And I actually talked to people that were in the building when that plane hit it. And it was a smaller plane. But still, I mean, the guy was so frustrated, he committed suicide over it. It's not worth it. If you're frustrated, you're upset, call, get some free advice, get this monkey and this burden off of your back so that we make sure we can help you and get you taken care of. Another true story, they've been fighting with the IRS for a couple of years now and just couldn't get anywhere, couldn't get the right person to look at their case. And it's not that they were wrong, it's just that they were very, very frustrated. And on a phone call, he made the comment, very unwisely, that someone should bomb the IRS. Yeah, you never ever want to say anything like that. He was prosecuted, and he should have been. You can't make threats like that against the government, because in reality, it does happen, and it's a very scary thing. And the people at the IRS are just trying to do a job. They're hired, they're trained to do a specific job. Whether or not they're good at it, or whether or not the organization of the IRS is set up well, that's a different issue. And again, some of that can be addressed at the ballot box. Some of it is the IRS. It's never been great. But lately, again, we've seen a lot of things get worse. So it's very, very common to get frustrated with it. We got on the case, we were able to wrap it up, but again, part of his probation was that he could not have any connection, could not file his own taxes, he could not call the IRS because it was on the phone that he threatened to bomb him. And he kind of saw the irony in it, and we were able to help him out and wrap up his case. But a lot of it is just knowing how to deal with the IRS. So if you're feeling that frustrated, take a step back, breathe, and realize that, again, whenever you're working with the government, it's not easy. It should be easy because they're public servants. So again, they don't remember that, or it's not emphasized. And it always pays to have an even head, and a professional attitude when dealing with them. Now, are there times I get upset and I might lay into the IRS? Oh, absolutely. But I still do it in a professional manner. I don't lose my cool. And when I do get frustrated, I express that frustration in a productive way. So some of the productive ways, again, we're going to continue with some of the things not to do. First of all, don't hide assets. Don't get compliant with filing your tax returns. one of the biggest problems we have is people that habitually owe. So if you don't like the IRS, just get them out of your hair. If you don't like dealing with them, do what you're supposed to do, and you won't have to deal with them. We'll help people set up where it's easy. Again, the name of the show, Taxes Made Easy. We mean that. That is one of our biggest goals, is to help people deal with the IRS, get square with them so they don't have to worry about it every single year. If you're committing fraud against the IRS by hiding assets, not reporting information, or tax evasion by trying to avoid paying taxes that are legitimately due, the last thing you want is a criminal investigation. And again, it just blows up your case and makes it so much worse. I had a client, the only time I've ever had someone heading towards a criminal investigation, and they absolutely were refusing to be upfront and honest with the IRS, even though the IRS already had all the information anyway, so it was really pointless what they were doing. And we told them, look, ethically, we can't continue to represent you and watch you go down this rabbit hole and hurt your case. And they asked us, well, how many clients have you had in this position? I said, none. You're the first, and I'm not going to follow you down this rabbit. I'm not going to watch you get arrested because you won't listen to me. If you're not listening, I mean, you're not willing to do things the right way, we're not doing you any favors by thinking that you're covered. So they went and they hired someone else that was going to tell them the exact same thing that we told them. I mean, it was absolutely nuts. And when you were fighting the IRS, when you're refusing to comply, it makes it so much easier for the IRS to come and hammer you. But if you get straight with the IRS, you can wrap it up. You can get it out of their hands. You can stop all the collections and move forward with your case. And I've emphasized this plenty of times, where it is, a lot of it is about the approach. If you come in and you're ready to fight with the IRS, and there's plenty of times where my first call, the IRS representative is up in arms and they've been dealing with someone and they haven't been complying. And I said, look, that's not how we operate. Doesn't mean we roll over. We still negotiate and fight for the best deal for our clients, which we do. But when you come in and you have a negotiating strategy, we're like, okay, I know what you need. We're going to get it for you so you can check off the boxes and get the case off your plate. We're going to help you resolve this case. If you have someone that wants to delay, especially use appeals to delay, there's nothing, that really ticks the IRS off. If you're using personal attacks, if you're getting mad and accusing the IRS of not playing fair, etc., sometimes they don't. Sometimes that's just their rules that they have to abide by. But if you're too emotional and too invested emotionally into a case, that's a perfect time to hire a good representative. So you can take a step back, get some emotional distance from it. Again, this is the famous saying in the law that an attorney that represents himself has a fool for a client. And if you can't deal with the IRS in a professional manner, where you can separate your emotions, and sometimes you just can't. Sometimes they've hurt you too much. It's hurt you and your family, and it doesn't seem like they care. The IRS, they have to follow their policies and procedures, so it's not just about caring. They hurt people day in and day out, but they hurt people that are not following their civic duties. And when it comes to tax issues, that's when people get hurt the most. It doesn't mean that you have to pay everything back. There are plenty of resolutions out there and ways to resolve the case. I have someone right now that we've submitted offers, we've kicked and screamed. They really do qualify for an installment agreement. That's really what the resolution should be. And so we were doing our best to represent her and save her money, and then she got in a bad accident. her situation has changed. We're going to pivot, change directions for her, and put her in a hardship status. And if she qualifies down the road, we'll do an offer. But again, it's we have to look at the facts as they are and be upfront. Sometimes it is what it is. We can fight and make whatever adjustments that you can. So doesn't mean you can't defend your rights. It doesn't mean that you can't get the best deal possible. But when you go in with your dukes ready, raised to fight, and you present a hostile attitude to the IRS, how do you think they're going to react? Their defenses go up, it becomes a fight, and usually that's when cases implode or the IRS can pull some nasty things on you, rightly or wrongly, to really hurt somebody. So if you have questions, if you have authority situation, if you're not sure what to do, how to fix a problem with the IRS, call us for a free consultation. And we absolutely mean that. Again, you can talk directly to an attorney if you'd like. Go through your rights and options. Get a clear idea of how to resolve these issues without banging your head against the wall, without being mad and frustrated, without having all the stress piled on your shoulders. And there's plenty of times we'll go over a case and we'll give someone some free advice and say, here's how you would resolve it. You know, do you mind if we follow up with you in a couple of weeks and see how it went? If you think you can do it on your own, great. If you need assistance and guidance, it really helps to have a professional in your corner and someone that knows how to play the game and knows how to get the best results for you. Sorry, I'm really thirsty today. So just to kind of recap, we've got a couple minutes left. And it's just across the board where I think we really are lacking civility in our public discourse when we talk about politics, but especially dealing with the government. And I can share so many stories. I mean, it's one of the funniest stories I had this, I think I shared this one before. Someone that had been playing with the IRS, yanking them around. I think we were the third law firm that they hired because they were never wanting to comply. They kept wanting to play these games. And it was a small business. They had about 30 to 40 employees, somewhere around there. Hundreds of thousands of dollars going through their bank accounts. And they weren't taking this seriously. So my very first call to the IRS, the revenue officer who had lost her professional edge, and she seemed to be very professional with me. Very first response was there was no way I was going to get a stay of execution on this one. So if you don't think she was upset, she was obviously upset. She was ready to drop the hammer and looking forward to dropping the hammer on these people that have been yanking her around and playing games for a long time, making her job so much harder. And I just laughed. That's all I could do. I just laughed. I said, wow. And she goes, well, what's so funny? I was like, well, I've never heard of it referred to like that. And she kind of chuckled. And she's like, well, they have it coming. I got a 2-week stay of execution. I got 2 weeks breathing space before she dropped all the levies on their head. What did I do the moment that happened is I blew up their phones. I called the receptionist. I called the owner's cell phones, every number I could get, filled up the secretary's voicemail. I sent letters, emails to whoever I could. They didn't respond. Thursday night, all the garnishments went out. Friday morning, I got a call with 2 of the owners and the secretary, and they were asking me, how did I let this happen? It's a good thing I keep really good notes. But I was able to tell them, look, I called. I emailed, I mailed a letter, blew up the receptionist line, and their receptionist was out on vacation, supposedly. Nobody was answering. Nobody was covering the calls. They probably did what they had been doing and just blew off all the requests for documents. They didn't take it seriously. Their responsibility is to comply and participate in the process in a professional way. And it hurt them. They ended up filing for business bankruptcy because over $140,000 was seized out of their accounts, and they could not continue to operate like that. So that's a worst case scenario. Best case scenario, and we've done this plenty of times for businesses where we jump in, we're prepared, we walk into the first meeting with the revenue officer, and we already have everything ready to go. And it's not a quick process still. They still have to go through their hoops and request for whatever their manager still wants, etc. But we've avoided all of that headache for businesses and for individuals just by saying, okay, here's what you need to do. Here are the steps you need to do to make sure you're completing your civic duty when it comes to taxes. And we're going to deal with them in a professional and civil manner to work for the best resolution for you. And that's our guarantee. Our promise is that we will always look for the best resolution and function as professionals. So if you have questions, give us a call. If you're stressed, frustrated, give us a call. We'll help tone it out and make the whole process, make these taxes easy for you.